March 2026 broke the global system. In a single month, simultaneous wars and natural disasters shattered the supply chains that keep the modern world running. The fracture started with military strikes. An offensive known as Operation Epic Fury specifically targeted the world's largest natural gas reservoirs, directly hitting critical sites like Qatar's Laffan facility. Within hours, the infrastructure required to compress and export liquefied natural gas was in ruins. Fires tore through processing units, paralyzing energy production across the Middle East and cutting off a vital artery for global fuel. But as the Persian Gulf burned, the atmosphere broke down in parallel. A massive high-pressure system, a heat dome, stalled over the American Southwest, trapping the region in extreme, summer-level temperatures weeks ahead of schedule. The violent weather wasn't isolated. 3 distinct storm systems spawned over 150 tornadoes across the United States, while a Category 5 storm named Cyclone Narelle fed on unusually warm ocean waters and bore down on the Australian coast. These parallel emergencies share a common thread. The operating baselines that humanity relies on, predictable weather for agriculture, and stable borders for energy trade, collapsed at exactly the same time. You can no longer separate geopolitical security from environmental stability. Experts call this specific kind of threat a polycrisis. A polycrisis happens when multiple, distinct global emergencies intersect, compounding one another to create a disaster far worse than the sum of its parts. We saw exactly how this compounding effect works in the energy markets. The conflict forced the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, instantly wiping out 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas supply. This chart tracks Brent crude prices. In late February, prices violently spiked past $110, touching $116 per barrel. As fuel costs skyrocketed, global shipping volume plummeted. Cargo ships couldn't afford to move, paralyzing the logistics networks required to transport essential goods. With primary reserves gone, nations across Europe and Asia were forced into a desperate bidding war. They scrambled to secure whatever backup coal and oil they could find to keep their economies afloat. The math is unforgiving. When the globe relies on centralized, imported fossil fuels, a single regional conflict immediately triggers global economic paralysis. But the polycrisis has a fatal loop built into it. When extreme weather events like blizzards and heat domes strike, human populations have to consume record amounts of electricity just for heating and cooling. So right as demand hits absolute maximums, the local power plants generating that electricity run dry. They rely on the exact same fossil fuels that are currently choked off by conflicts half a world away. This map from the North American Electric Reliability Corporation shows exactly how severe this mismatch became. Large portions of the grid, specifically the basin and northwest subregions marked here in red and orange, faced high risks of total electricity shortfalls during extreme winter conditions. That vulnerability translated directly into emergency load shedding. Utilities were forced to issue blackout warnings and intentionally cut power to neighborhoods to prevent the entire system from physically breaking down. This is the ultimate trap of the 2026 crisis. A volatile climate forces us to use more power, while geopolitical warfare destroys our ability to generate it. The only defense against this global feedback loop is local sovereignty. That reality shifts the focus to places like the Indian state of Odisha. To insulate its citizens and its growing economy from the next Middle Eastern conflict or fossil fuel shortage, Odisha has to build a self-sufficient energy system. Recent economic projections lay out a precise mandate. This chart shows Odisha's projected demand. The state requires a massive 26 gigawatts of total clean energy capacity by 2034. It must be built locally through weather-resilient infrastructure, splitting that heavy load across advanced solar arrays, wind turbines, and emerging green technologies. But deploying and maintaining infrastructure on this scale presents a massive logistical hurdle. It requires a specialized, technical workforce that simply does not exist yet. This is a direct mandate for the youth of Odisha. Leading this transition requires a massive pivot in education, with a new generation entering fields like renewable engineering, sustainability sciences, and green technology development. Renewable energy has become the baseline for local survival and economic sovereignty. The resources are available. Now the next generation must step in to build the grid that keeps the lights on.